comes back to if I, in some small part in my day-to-day, can make a positive impact in bringing more investment, more job opportunity into the continent, into South Africa, then I feel that's pretty amazing.
Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to Africa Scotland Business Network's first ever podcast. We have just decided on a name for the podcast. It's going to be the Parallels podcast. Here we go. And we decided for the first episode, we have decided to interview ourselves, myself and Nicola, co-founders of ASBN. Going forward into 2024, we will be interviewing our wonderful member company business leaders. So stay tuned. Nicola, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm a bit tired. We had a big event last night. It was good though, hey?
It was really good.
Yeah. Over 100 member companies.
Yeah.
British ambassadors' residence.
I know.
It was swanky and a vibe.
I know. I must say, when I was doing my speech last night, I got a little bit nervous because we had our members in the room, but there was also like quite a few guests there. And I must say, I took like quite a few jokes out.
I don't know. I think the audience was actually quite up for a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
It's funny how we kind of project like
so true.
What we want, we expect the audience to react like.
Yeah.
But actually, everyone was just up for a good time. Sun was out, beautiful wine, beautiful setting. I think it was more chill, but it is, we kind of like internalize these things. We create this whole narrative, right?
Yeah, I think everyone enjoyed. And that's certainly one of my aims for ASBN. I'm obsessed with creating a space where lots of different people come together. And yes, they're all here for business at the heart of it. But at the same time, we've got a really like human network.
Yeah.
And holding the space for people to connect so meaningfully. Our members know that when they step into our space that they can just like drop their guard, they can be relaxed, they can bring out their authentic selves. And it's certainly something that drives me to keep going and building this.
It was funny, I was noticing last night because quite often when you go to a networking event, right, it can be you can feel a bit nervous, a little bit like, oh, who am I going to connect with? Am I going to be like standing in the corner with a glass of wine, feeling awkward? And I just took a moment to step back last night and I noticed people who were on their own and there were hundreds.
Yeah.
They were chatting to people. Everyone was welcoming and inclusive. And I was just like, wow, this is such a special environment.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like, it's quite hard to articulate how you create that environment, right? But I think also because our team, we have the other business, Firecracker, which is marketing and events for those who don't know. We've got that experience of how to actually create all those touch points, how to create like an immersive brand where people do feel welcome and they can just relax. And then all those meaningful conversations happen because people have let their guard down and those amazing connections start to unfold.
So that brings about a question from me. And we do want to keep this like discussion based. What do you think as business owners who started and scaled a company literally from 50 rands, we've got that experience of 12 years running Firecracker under our belts. What do you think has been the main learnings that we have been able to transfer over to starting a second business?
It's a great question. So I think because the very nature of our first business is marketing, brand, events, I think it was so critical in our journey to create the network that we took that time to really lay the foundations of what is this unique brand and actually like developed a proper strategy thinking, a really robust platform to build on. So a lot of people comment that our brand visually is quite stunning, but it's not just how it shows up to people. It's the DNA that we created from the inside out because we spent that time really figuring out what is it that we want to do? What is the value we want to deliver? How do we show up in the world? Who are we speaking to? And I think because we took that time, instead of just like launching into it, to really figure that stuff out, what we've done is quite unique and different and special as a result. The second thing is surrounding ourselves with the right people. So we obviously work great together. We like so different on so many levels, but our values are very aligned. We like completely on par with like work ethic, doing the right thing by each other. Like it's always, we're running businesses, but when it comes to the crunch, we always put the humans first. There's like a real caring that I think is like that trust in each other that, infiltrates with the team. It creates a really productive, beautiful culture to build a business from. And not just ourselves as directors and business partners, but also the wider team and the people that have supported us. So in the network, we've got brilliant board of advisors in South Africa and the UK. And they all bring different things to the table. So it's kind of like also asking for help when you need it and getting access to the right minds that fill in those gaps to really propel the business and make it what it is today. So I think those are kind of the main things that we've learned. We've also learned how to be extremely nimble, work really hard and get a lot achieved. And I think that's something that we do across both businesses, and also just juggling a lot of things, right? So we've become quite good with Firecracker, doing like so many big events, so many marketing campaigns. We've learned really how to wear a lot of different hats. And in the network, we need to do the same. There's 105 business, member companies that we need to take care of, need to make connections with. There's the marketing side, there's the partnership side. And I think in the network as well, we have these amazing partners around us as well, not just our board of advisors who really just add so much value. So it's kind of like acknowledging that we're not an island, we can't do it all ourselves, and being humble enough to and wise enough to accept help from the right people.
Yeah, that's so true. I must say, even we're like 12 years into a business partnership, you learn to be comfortable asking for help. You can't know everything.
Yeah.
Especially, we had Firecracker, we still have Firecracker. Running a business network is a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
But I'm at the stage where I'm really comfortable asking for help. And I guess that is something that I would definitely encourage, particularly for people who are in the earlier stages of entrepreneurship, or even in any career, and whether you're working on a big corporate or a small business, it's okay to ask for help, right?
Totally. So our business, the network is obviously very much focused around humans, right? That's what we do. We're bringing humans together. So what are some of the interesting things about humans that you've learned through this experience, maybe?
Yeah, lots. I must say I've actually learned a lot more about you.
Oh.
We've got Kino and Clint here behind the scenes, and when I walked in, Kino was like, okay, before you do this podcast, like, do you guys like each other, really? And I'm
Is
like,
it all just an act?
And I think we're two like very, very authentic humans in our own ways. But yeah, you're like one of my favourite humans.
Aww.
Like, yeah. So I think we've got that solid foundation in each other that kind of like has a ripple effect into our businesses, into our clients, and into our members. But so apart from learning more about you and, running two companies, it has been a bit more stress. It has been much more of a workload, but we've kind of like stuck through it. I think we've become a lot more resilient. But certainly like within ASBN, we're now dealing with about 500 human beings who are part of our business network, and those humans are all over the world. And the key things that I've learned about them is talking in general about our community. Now, just to emphasise, our community, they're not just African and Scottish. We have members from literally all parts of the world, and they all react really well to honesty. And I think that's something that's been really critical to us in our journey. And I made a bit of a joke about it last night when I was talking about, when you start a network, it's essentially empty, right?
Yeah.
And people are, the business exchange, the value exchanges, they're paying you money every year for an annual membership to access people. And then when we started our network exactly 4 years ago, like I was a nervous wreck inside. You know, people have paid us money in that first month, and it's like, hi, there's 5 more members to network with. But we were honest about it. Like, don't worry, just put your trust in us. We're going to like grow this ship meaningfully, strategically, carefully. And most of those members who joined in the very first month, there was 6 of them, they're still with us here today. So I think honesty and transparency in business, when you tell people, look, this is where we're at, more than likely, like, good humans will have your back. So that's why I've always been really careful. Like, don't inflate the numbers. Don't, you know, we're in so many different countries. And if you include our big multinationals, they've got offices all over the world, but we don't count those offices when we talk about our footprint. So I've always been like really cautious. Just don't inflate things. Don't bend the numbers. Don't like, just be completely honest with our statistics. And people, our members, have totally backed that. And the second thing I've learned about humans is we all have fundamental human needs, right? And a big question that I get asked is, oh, you know, Claire, you know, you've still got, ASBN is still quite a small team. You're centrally managed. Like, how do you look after like the big corporates? Like, aren't they really demanding? And yes, of course, our members all have completely different business needs, and we try and tap into them as best we can with the resources that we have. But I explained to the critics or the inquirers, big corporates are also full of people. And those people also have fundamental human needs, like the need to belong to something, the need to trust others, the need to connect with people who are outside of their comfort zone, for the want of a better word. And that might mean in other countries and other cultures. And that is something the ASBN can offer those people. And it's the big corporates that actually, they ask really interesting questions. They're highly engaged with us. And I think, you know, when big corporate brands like associate with you, and we've got quite a few like global brands in our network now, it's like maybe a bit of a testament to how we're actually leading and managing ASBN.
What's been interesting for me around that relationship with our members is that the transaction we assumed when we started the network was going to be one way, right? They're going to pay a membership fee. We're going to deliver services and connections in exchange for that membership fee. But what I've experienced is that it's much deeper than that. And our members are almost like, they want to help us as well. So it's not just like, what can I get from you and what can you do for me? It's like, okay, I buy into what's happening here. How can I help you grow? What can I do for you? And for me, that's been really amazing to see. Like, these big corporates are like, great, we're going to host your event in Joburg. It's on us. You know, just like this goodwill and kind of openness that you wouldn't necessarily expect in the corporate world, which I think is amazing. And just to your point, like, humans are humans, you know. And when you ask for help, and as you say, when you're honest about where you're at, we're under no illusions. We're 4 years old. We're still a little baby in the you know, grander scheme of things. We're honest and we say, we need support. We need a board of advisors. We need access to event space. We need whatever. People are like, great. This is what we can do for you. So it's kind of, it's been more of an ecosystem than a transaction for me.
What do you think are the other success factors that we've got right?
I think it's, and, you know, I think about this quite often. It's kind of, it's that intangible thing, like that secret sauce of that amazing customer service. And it's quite difficult to articulate, but it's so unique. And we know this from obviously knowing the space that we play in, that it is special. It is being really proactive. We obviously have systems in place to kind of manage this, because it can't all just be organic. And, you know, we have a great team behind us, we use the right technology to enable our team. So we kind of streamline where possible, which enables us to kind of service as many member companies as we do. But it's really being kind of values driven as well. So we are super mindful around, and defining our values was one of the first things that we did.
That's right.
And it's not something that kind of sits on a PowerPoint presentation somewhere on the drive. It's something that we reflect on all the time, and it helps inform our decision making. So even if, down to like, whether we're going to accept a membership application, we go back to our values. Is this company aligned with our values? Are there any red flags? Is this going to change the dynamic in the organization? Because what we've created is quite special and unique. So I think being values driven, very intentful, being very focused on service, I think that's it takes a lot of hard work, but our team does it brilliantly. And I think also, again, just having the right partnerships. We have brilliant partnerships in the private sector and government all around the world, which really helps our members and ourselves, and also remaining independent. So I think it was, again, like an interesting, and it comes back to the name of the podcast, The Parallel. I think back to our early planning sessions around the network, and we were like, okay, do we bring on, investors? Do we give away, equity? Do we partner in a more formal way with a government body? And we wanted to remain independent. And I think that's been a really good kind of door that we've passed through, because we can make the decisions that steer the ship in the right way, because we're so aligned and clear on our vision and the focus and where we want the network to be. We can do that. We obviously don't do it alone. We do it with all our partners, but maintaining that independence, I think, has been really critical.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think ASBN is very much a legacy business. There's a lot of purpose in it. And I know, me being like the Scottish girl, I feel an immense sense of purpose, like driving this very unique Scottish African business relationship that has always existed. Scotland and Africa have an incredible history in education, in development, and in business. And I spoke about that last night, actually. One of our member companies has been doing engineering in Africa since like the early 1900s. And we are now starting to contribute to that in a very big way. So I think people feel this immense sense of purpose in what we're doing. And I've often wondered, you and me, Firecracker was like up and running like 4 or 5 years ago. We could have like invested in something else. We could have like started something that was a lot easier, perhaps. Yeah. Maybe like a fast moving goods business that would like churn quick revenue. Because our model is that members pay us every year. So we had to embrace that this would be a long-term game. And I often wonder, why did we not do that? But it comes back to purpose. Like, I feel this is what we were meant to do, and it's happened. So it was obviously meant to happen. But for me, on a personal level, I often I'm not like an over analyzer. You always tell me like, stop the analysis paralysis. So I don't like to over critique something. I'm very much like a doer. But if I do try and like go right back, like deep into my mitochondria, like, what am I doing this for? It probably comes from how I, like my youth, how I grew up. And it's something I've not really shared too much in the business world. But at school, I didn't have a great time. Like, particularly towards the end of high school, I didn't have a great time. I grew up, I swam for my country. I did sport at like a really high level. So I had this like, I wouldn't say it wasn't normal. I mean, that was my normal. And there's loads of kids that do sport through school, right? But I had quite an intense life swimming in Glasgow before training, coming back from Glasgow, going to school, getting out of school quick, going back to Glasgow. So I already had this like difference in my youth, and I don't know if a lot of like kids maybe understood that. I think some of my teachers didn't even understand that level of commitment, and it's not something, I did it because I want to. You know, I come from a swimming family, but I did have a hard time in that. I don't know if I would call it bullying, because I don't want to like blame anything on anyone, but I encountered a lot of nastiness at school, and I don't want to like project that onto like girls who are now adults. They maybe didn't know what they were doing back then. I'm certainly not like a perfect human being. I maybe didn't have great responses either, but and I'm going to just call it the bullying. It got so out of hand that my grandfather had to like drive from another town, like along the Hillfoot Road, get me at lunchtime and get me out of the space at school. So I've always had this thing like really deep in me where I don't want to leave people out. Like I want to be the person that controls a space and manages a space where everyone, regardless of who they are, what they look like, as long as they have like, you know, goodness in them, can exist peacefully and authentically in this space. And I think we've achieved that. So I think that's where, that was, get the violins out. That's like a bit of a Stephen Bartlett moment. And, I'll use the example of like Clint. I got married and when I was 40 on my 40th birthday, and it made me, when I put the invites out, like I had quite a big wedding. There was like 120 people at my wedding, and I felt terrible that I couldn't move the walls out in the wedding, but I felt terrible that it was people I couldn't invite. Like that really rocked me. And then when I looked at all the groups, because I think in groups, that's how I think. Like, I don't think about myself when it comes to like survival. I think of like the collective and collective prosperity and unity. That's like one of my fundamental human drivers. And I realised that I had invited everyone to the wedding except Clint, and Clint was quite new in our team, and I was like, I can't do that. I just can't do that to him. So the least I could do was like, I think, did I WhatsApp you, Clint? Or I phoned you? And I was like, Clint, I'll not be offended if you don't want to come. I know like you're quite new into the companies, but do you want to come to my wedding? And he was like, yeah, of course. So I just had to do that because my brain, it's obsessed with like not leaving people out of the group.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm quite good at running a network of people, because I'm always thinking how they move with each other, engage with each other. I'm always thinking what the asset is doing on the outside. And so, I'm definitely where I'm meant to be in life.
It's amazing. It's interesting. It's kind of like going back to that tribal instinct, I guess, right? Which is like, our brains, fun fact, our brains are wired for 150 connections. Over that, we find it overwhelming. Because that's what our little villages were like, because we didn't have Uber and cars and cell phones. It was like the people that were in your village, around the river where you lived, that was your community, and that's our comfort zone. And I guess, in a way, we've created our own little tribe, own little village. Obviously, there's like more than 150, but not all members connect with all members, right? Yeah. There's going to be some that, and I guess what we do, going back to that kind of like, not getting too like deep here, but we've gone back to that kind of tribal way of like, this is your tribe. Yeah. These are the people that are going to work with you. We kind of curate those connections. You need to meet this one. You need to meet that one. You kind of take the overwhelm away, right? Because with like LinkedIn and all these different digital platforms, which are amazing, it's like, where do I start? Yeah. This is so much. I need to grow my business. I need to grow my network. It's like, it's all right. We got you. We're going to build your village for you. which I think is really cool. And I think, like, thinking about purpose, I often think around, I do overanalyze things, I think a lot.
Libras.
I know.
Libras.
It could be this, it could be that. And for me, like, I love understanding humans. At university, I did sociology and psychology and English literature. Anyway, and I just love understanding what drives humans. And I guess that's why I do marketing and branding as well, because it's all like, what are your triggers and what motivates people and how do we connect them? And it's the same thing with the network. It's like understanding humans and what they need and the psychology behind their behaviors. I just find so fascinating. But for me, it's also just so rewarding. You know, I've got a very strange accent because I've lived in America, UK, Australia, and I'm from Cape Town, actually from the Eastern Cape, but grew up in Cape Town. And it's tough here, right? Like the inequality is next level. You are faced with poverty literally on every street corner, every single day. It's really hard, and I'm not being, worries me, but it's like, how do I make an impact? How do I actually, just little Nicola Probyn, actually do something about this? And I think coming back to purpose, like the business network for me it's about our member companies, but it's about the continent of Africa. And it's about shining a spotlight on the amazing potential, the amazing things that are happening that haven't been spoken about, that haven't been highlighted, because the rest of the world needs to know that this is the future. Africa is now. Africa is happening. People need to get on board. They need to get involved. And I get that it can be overwhelming. It's like, okay, well, I'd like to do business in Africa. Where do I start? There's obviously risks, right? And I guess and this is not a punt for the network, but that's where we see our role is we can make those introductions. We can find those partners for you. We can help you with your risk, your legal, whatever it is. We can make that passage more seamless. And for me, that comes back to if I, in some small part in my day-to-day, can make a positive impact in bringing more investment, more job opportunity into the continent, into South Africa, then I feel that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And
our work is actually going both ways now. So we are also helping companies expand north, which is super cool. I never expected to do that. And that also makes me proud because a lot of them are asking, Claire, can you help us? And ASBN, can you help us get into Scotland? And I'm like, yes, I'm on it. I know everyone in Scotland because it's not that hard. There's 5 people there. But and I must say, just to finish this off, we've created jobs.
Yeah.
In 4 short years, we've created jobs. We've created investment. We've created amazing partnerships. And we've just done it without too much thinking. So onwards
and upwards
to the next 4 years.
Yeah.
We'll probably have our own podcast studio by then in 4 years. So thanks so much for listening to the first ever Parallels podcast brought to you by Africa Scotland Business Network. Thanks to Kino, thanks to Clint behind the scenes for helping us get our very first podcast off the ground. Stay connected with us. It's Africa_Scotland on social media, www.africascotland.network. Please visit us, stay connected, and we will be bringing business leaders straight to your screens very soon.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.